My journey through the BloodRayne franchise is finally complete. After 2 main games, watching all 3 movies, and buying my own set of replica arm swords, we're finally to the 2D platformer reboot. So did we save the best for last with this game made by WayForward, known for the Shantae series? Let's find out. Here is my review of BloodRayne Betrayal Fresh Bites for the Nintendo Switch. Betrayal is a bit of a reboot, so it isn't really connected or canonical with BloodRayne's 1 and 2. And it's pretty obvious when a character confirmed dead from those games shows up in this one. The plot is around Brimstone Society detecting a massive underground castle filled with vampires. Unable to combat the threat on their own, they reluctantly call upon the half-human, half-vampire Rayne to help them. Now this is a very different take on the story. Brimstone is very distrusting of Rayne. The sex puns and innuendos have pretty much been thrown away for a more serious tone, but Rayne's background as a Dampier is pretty much the same as it was in the original series. This is just the weakest story overall. From very little dialogue for character development, plot points going extremely fast, and overall players are not going to feel attached or connected to the characters without previous knowledge of the series that came before. When it comes to gameplay, this is a 2D action platformer with beat-em-up elements. Betrayal was originally released back in 2011 for PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360 that led to a lot of criticism from highly unbalanced difficulty and skill requirement. This remaster has updated visuals, new difficulty settings to balance the unfairness of the original, though you do also have the option of using that older difficulty setting if you want to. And the biggest change is the return of Laura Bailey and Troy Baker reprising their roles as Rayne and Kagan, voicing dialogue that remained silent in the original release. Main progression here has you going through 15 chapters or stages where you navigate 2D areas, solving some light puzzles, and fighting off enemies with a magnum and Rayne's signature arm blades. The platforming is pretty fluid with typical platformer hazards like breakable floors, spike traps, and puzzle switches that you have to use a special gun for to unlock doors to progress forward. Though it can get a little bit overly complicated with the fighting game style input for the backflip jump for high platforms and having to attack down on certain enemies to jump and bounce across certain areas. Now this makes a bit more sense in the secret high difficulty areas where you can get the unlockable skulls that increase your max health or ammo capacity, but doing it in the normal just go through this to finish the stage area does seem a little excessive. Now back on the platforming. Something that a lot of fans of the genre are really gonna like are features coming into this game from other franchises. The wall climbing and dashing are extremely reminiscent of Mega Man X and Mega Man Zero. The boss intros are similar to WayForward's Shantae franchise, and a few enemy designs and patterns are gonna be nostalgic for Castlevania fans. Getting to the combat, it is very hack and slash and almost beat 'em up in style. Rayne has flashy combos with directional input on occasion from her arm blades, along with a magnum gun that can do massive damage that pierces through pretty much every enemy that you're looking at. You've also got an invincible dash to let you go through and pass enemies for either quick progression through the stages or setting up back attacks. Plus the classic BloodRayne latch onto enemies to suck their blood and regain health comes back as well. Much better than in the previous games as you are completely invincible while you're doing it. As mindless and button mashy as this looks, and let's be honest, it is very button mashy, there is a little bit of strategy here. Enemies have to be stunned to be grabbed onto for health regen, and some puzzles require you to launch enemies or infect them so you can lure them to an area and make them explode like a walking bomb to clear off debris. Speaking of strategy, let's talk about difficulty. Normal is definitely a lot more balanced with damage. It does require skill, but not to the point where you have to completely master it. None of the bosses in the game took me more than 2 or 3 tries to figure out how to take down and, well, take them down. The fact that they put checkpoints literally everywhere in every stage also helps a lot. As all of these different mechanics come together, this is a really fun system. The combos feel great, the freedom of having invincibility frames during dashes and health regen is really convenient. If there was one thing that I would say was a downer with this whole system, it's the content and length. I had a lot of fun in this game, but it only lasted me about 4 hours from start to finish. You can replay stages to claim missing collectibles for health upgrades, but there's no real New Game Plus or anything of that sort. Next, we're going to dive into controls for just a moment, which is a good thing and bad thing at the same time. Controls can pretty much be mapped to whatever button you like, which is really handy for the customization. I immediately went in and changed dash from ZL to R to match my preferred moveset from Mega Man Zero. Though the game does have a tendency to forget your preset when you switch from docked to handheld mode and vice versa. There were several times on both my OLED and V2 where I had to go through settings, see that it said dash was on R, but the game had swapped it back to ZL. I had to go in and re-edit the settings to fix it. Next, let's get into presentation, which was one of the downer points of the first two games, but is absolutely the highlight of this one. Betrayal is absolutely beautiful. It's got a bit of a comic book style to it, but the backgrounds are colorful and there is just so much beauty and detail to Rayne's animations as she slices through enemies. If you have an OLED Switch, you definitely need to play this game in handheld mode. The music is also really good. A lot of rock-filled bangers just fill this entire soundtrack, and I've already downloaded a bunch to my phone to listen to afterwards. Now with performance, I have no complaints. It might have dropped under 60 for some of the game, but it plays really smooth from start to finish. So with that out of the way, let's dive into battery life. Betrayal gives the original model a battery range of 3 hours and 41 up to 4 hours and 17. The Nintendo Switch Lite gets a range of 3 hours and 50 up to 4 hours and 20. The Redbox V2 2019 model gets a battery range of 4 hours and 43 up to 5 hours and 30. And the OLED model gets a range of 5 hours and 1 up to 6 hours and 5. In conclusion, Betrayal completes the BloodRayne saga on the Switch and is a nice improvement over its 2011 original release. Now on the downside, the platforming and moves can be a little overly complicated at times, and the story is pretty weak, especially if you aren't already familiar with these characters. But it's an absolutely gorgeous platformer that offers a few hours of fun and moderately difficult combat on the go. Reviews to Go rates BloodRayne Betrayal Fresh Bites for the Nintendo Switch an 8 out of 10. If you have any comments or questions, feel free to leave them below. Thank you for watching and have a great day.